How is it going, everyone? We are currently in a very interesting situation in the markets. Some people are calling for the idea that we have gone ahead and topped within the market. Some people are still very bullish on the market. I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion on where we are currently sitting with the market and what I genuinely see next. And this video is basically going to be from that of a technical analysis perspective. So basically looking at the charts and then predicting what will happen next simply based off of that. So I'm currently home in Ohio, so I am going to just do a little quick update for you guys. We'll have two quick updates, one today, one tomorrow, and then Sunday probably we'll also just do another one of this nature as well before, of course, getting into next week, where I'll be back and we'll get onto the regular scheduled what we usually do, and we're gonna have more interesting topics for you guys. But again, this is just more so a video to give you guys, for those of you who do care, an update on the market from a technical analysis perspective, and we'll do so in a quick manner. Now today is Halloween, so happy Halloween to all of you. We got some mini skulls right here on my desk. But one thing to keep in mind is that HyroTrader, the prop firm that I use that specifically regards crypto, is at a 20% discount. If you go and use the link in the description of this video, you guys will find the link there. Go use that link and put the code in that you'll see. It will be also in the description. That will give you 20% off any HyroTrader prop firm account that you go or that you can go ahead and go off. It's a Halloween special, and I think it ends tonight, obviously, because it's a Halloween special, right? So 20% off your first or just any prop firm account. It will be down there, and then after that, it'll just go back to a 10% discount that you still can use, of course, permanently. So with all that being said, there's not really much else to talk about. We're just going to get into Bitcoin. So this is what I would want to touch on first to give you guys kind of an idea of what I'm going to be going over. We're going to touch on Bitcoin. We're going to touch on Ethereum. We're going to touch on Solana. And then we may touch on some altcoins here and there. But realistically, it's just going to be those three. And just go over my overall thoughts on the market. As far as like macroeconomics go, well, of course, we're still in a government shutdown. Fed seemed to be priced in that we had the news come out Wednesday when the Fed went ahead and released their meeting. It seemed to be that was all already priced in. Like, price barely did anything in response to that. People were expecting a big pump. People were expecting this week to be really bullish. I personally really wasn't. Obviously, where we're currently sitting, it does not appear that it was bullish at all, right? So there's a lot going on. We have, of course, China, U.S. tariff deals where, that's, of course, still ongoing. I saw something today of the U.S. going and potentially striking Venezuela in terms of, I believe it's drug related, of course. So we have a bunch of different things going on, macroeconomically, globally, in terms of global political or geopolitical tensions, right? There's a lot going on, but we're just going to be doing a technical analysis perspective today. So basically, we have gone over previously in the video that this kind of gray support box here, where we had multiple taps into this, you can see kind of back here as well in December and that of February, we, were just kind of just going back and forth within this identified range here, which we currently have highlighted. This is a current support level that I am looking for. So you guys can see we have support here, right? We've been trading above this for a pretty long while now. The last time we tapped in the support level was in June, and this is from around $101,500 to around that of like $98,000. And so as you can see, this low that we have here is around 98,226. I'd say this is a major swing low. So this is a major swing low that price made, and that is at around 98,226. My personal opinion is that Bitcoin is going to go down and revisit this support level and go and potentially sweep that previous swing low, major swing low. So I think that Bitcoin's going to come down to 101,000 and into that $98,000 range. So I think in the near future, personally, from a technical analysis perspective, Bitcoin's going to break below 100,000 very shortly. I personally think that's going to happen. If we look at QVWAP levels, we're now going to be closing below this one right here, and then we have the lower band, of course, at the very bottom. But realistically, not a lot of this is pretty much noise, like the EMAs. We have the 100 EMA here that if we close on the daily time, or the 200 EMA here, this dark blue line, which is an exponential moving average. If we close below that, then you could say that we're in a tough spot as well. It's just another reason to be bearish, but we've seen that it really has not made too much of a difference there. We're of course closing below the SMA 9. But realistically, there's one indicator that I'm looking at in specific that would really show us, in terms of a technical analysis perspective, if Bitcoin is going to be headed into a bear market here very shortly, or if there's a potential sign of a regain in strength, where we just continue forward and potentially make a new all-time high. I personally think that is the most unlikely scenario. I think the most unlikely scenario is that Bitcoin in the near future goes and hits a new all-time high. I personally believe that we're going to definitely fall below $100,000 before a new all-time high is created for Bitcoin. But that's just a guess. That's a guess based off of technical analysis. And again, if I go to the weekly time frame, this is where I was talking about that pretty key level here. And in specific, we have the 50 weekly EMA here. So this 50 weekly EMA here is very, very, very important. Okay, this is a level that sits at around $100,820 per Bitcoin, and it's of course sitting at our support level. If Bitcoin goes down and taps this 50 EMA on the weekly time frame, we could see two things happen. If it closes above the 50 EMA, then we could see a rejection to the upside, at least for a good bit, or we see a close below the 50 EMA on the weekly time frame. If that happens, I think we are definitely headed lower, and that could potentially be the start of our bear market if we close below. This is like a huge level here, this 50 EMA on the weekly time frame. If we close below this on the weekly time frame, then I definitely think that we could, from a technical analysis perspective, be headed into a bear market. So that's my personal opinion, right? So we're just going to have to wait for that to happen. We're still, we're at $108,000 right now per Bitcoin, almost 109,000. We're not too far from 100,000, and it's pretty much $100,100 or 101,000. There we go. We're not too far away from that level. We really aren't. The thing is, right, do we reject off that level if we approach it, or do we close below? If we reject off of it, I think, nonetheless, I'm pretty bearish. If I have to be completely honest, I'm pretty bearish on the overall market. ETH looks pretty bad. Just everything looks very bad. And again, we're not even looking at stablecoin dominance. We're not looking at a bunch of other key metrics. We're strictly looking off of Bitcoin's chart. And I think, that we are due probably for a pretty big move down here soon. So that is a personal opinion of mine. Does that mean it's going to happen? Of course not. But this is what I'm saying. Like, there's always different scenarios within the markets. You have to be ready for all of them. And if you're not, well then, if you've been incredibly bullish throughout this whole year, you would have seen some success. But if you just continue to keep hoping and banking on, that event to happen, you're predicting even Q1, 2, 3 of 2026 are going to be very bullish for the markets. Well, then you're not being realistic. You're just being, one of those guys who just hopes for the best case scenario every single time. That's not ever going to help you out. What you got to do, what's worked for me, consider all scenarios. Then you literally are prepared for anything. You're prepared for anything to happen, and you have a plan for any situation. We've talked about this pretty much every video. Anyways, that is Bitcoin. I think we are going to go approach 100K. And with this 50 EMA, we either reject off of it or if we close below it, that's my opinion, a technical analysis sign that we are in a official bear market. Okay, so that's my opinion on Bitcoin. I think short term, yeah, definitely we are going lower. It just looks so weak right now, and the price act, yeah, that everything is just not looking good for Bitcoin right now, in my opinion. Ethereum also just does not look good whatsoever. As far as like the weekly time frame, if you wanted to say, we are about to close below the 20 weekly time frame in 2 days, I guess. So we still have some time. The 20 EMA on the weekly time frame, and if you look, the last time we were below that was in June of 2025, and we're about to close below that here in October, right? It most likely will happen in November. If this does happen, I think we're definitely going down to at least this 50 EMA. If we close below that 50 EMA on the weekly time frame, well, then we're just going to continue to fall down to potentially to retest this EMA here at $2,500. So I think ETH, if it closes below here, definitely headed lower into next week. But even on the daily time frame, ETH just looks really bad, really, really bad. I think ETH, yeah, it's just going to continue further down from here. So we're just going to have to see. Like, again, it just does not look too good. We have the 200 EMA here on the daily time frame with one of the lower QVWAP bands there. So if we close below both of those, yeah, we're definitely headed towards like 3K per ETH at the very, very minimum. And I think we're going to continue to free fall from there. So I don't, okay, like with this, I don't want you guys to be scared. I don't, whoever's watching this, but you have to be realistic. In me saying this, feel like zero emotions just because that's how, I've been able to play the markets now. But in general, once you understand that in these markets that they don't favor what you really would want to have happen, right? If you want, of course, everyone wants every single altcoin that they're in to do a 10, 20, 50x, but that's not realistic. It's just simply not realistic. You have to be very realistic with yourself when you're dealing with the crypto market. And again, be literally prepared for any scenario because I'm very prepared. I've been prepared for the event of a bear market, and I'm also very prepared for the event of a continuation of the current bull market. Meaning that if we were to continue forward into a bull market, that I would still be prepared for that and would actually be able to capitalize off of that. But if we moved into a bear market, I would also be able to capitalize off a bear market and protect myself in the best way possible. Okay. So yeah, I think again, now here's another thing that is pretty important to talk about. And this is a distinction I made numerous times in my videos. This is very important. Okay. I'd like to make this distinction. Let me go ahead and show you a random coin here that is on the higher market cap, that being Dogecoin. I want to show you guys something here. December of 2024, we saw Dogecoin at around 50 cents. In December of 2024, early December, 2024, yeah, I got that right. We saw altcoins perform very, very well. We saw Ethereum perform very, very well, right? We saw the whole crypto market perform awesome. But specifically, altcoins saw major runs. I mean, look, we went from Doge being at around 10 cents all the way to almost 60 cents. I guess it was more realistically around 50 for a 5x. Dogecoin did a 5x. And where was ETH at this time in December of 2024? ETH was at $4,000 per Ethereum. The problem comes with we are in 2025 almost at that same level currently that we were in December. But months previously to where we're currently at, ETH was trading almost at $5,000 per Ethereum. And what was Doge doing? It was 30 cents, almost 20 cents lower than it was in December of 2024. If I go to Aerodrome as well, you guys will be able to see this also. Aerodrome hit almost $2.30. Well, it's currently at around $1.05. It hit $1.60, 70 cents lower than it did in December when ETH was lower than it was in August. So ETH hit a new all-time high, and altcoins did not perform nearly as well as they did in December of 2024 when ETH was only at around $4,000 per Ethereum. Bitcoin this year has been hitting a lot of new all-time highs. It hit an all-time high numerous times, and alts also have not performed that well. A select few have, if you look at XRP, if you look at, of course, Binance, the BNB coin, those are exceptions to the rule. The majority of these coins have not performed well whatsoever. And what are people still hoping for? They're hoping for an alt season. I mean, look at Render. It was at $12 per token in December of 2024. It's now at $2. Look at Sui. It's at $2.30 per token. It was all the way up at $5.50. And I could just show you numerous more examples. Ondo hit $2 per token and is at 67 cents currently. And ETH is around the same area it was when all these coins had these great runs in December. So what does this entail? Why am I bringing this up? The point I'm bringing up is you should see that there's now a correlation, right? You should see that an assumption can essentially be made that alts are significantly weaker than they were compared to that of December when ETH was lower than it was this year, right? And so that's concerning. That's something that I've talked about, that I've been concerned about within the market. It's just a clear telltale sign that altcoins have really gained zero strength throughout this year. And it's concerning to say the least. But what makes this situation even more concerning is if you look at drawdowns, if you looked at moments where Bitcoin and Ethereum simply had major crashes, like we could look at that day of, earlier this October when we had this gigantic crash here. I mean, if I go to literally any chart, you're going to see this gigantic wick, besides that of Bitcoin, of course, where we wicked to 103K. Alts got smacked. They got smacked. Like, brutally smacked. The correlation has been this year with ETH and Bitcoin falling down in, 5% moves down or 4%, 3%. Altcoins respond very, very, very negatively. Very negatively. On the inverse, if Bitcoin and Ethereum do very well, hit new all-time highs, altcoins really don't follow as strong as they should be, or as they're expected to be. So altcoins' performance has been very lackluster, and that's concerning, especially for a lot of those people who are banking on an alt season to happen within that of Q4, within that, of Q1 of 2026. You still have a lot of people banking for an alt season. In the event for that to happen, what would be really nice to see is that we see, good movement with out of alts. We have not seen that this year. In comparison to that of December of 2024 and even spring of 2024. This is still very lackluster. And so I do really think that this is concerning. So there's my whole rant there. We've talked about that. Well, now Solana. Sol. There is a clear trend line here on the daily time frame. We've been bouncing off of this numerous times now. I think if we close below this, then I would definitely be interested in shorting Solana. If we close below this trend line, I think Solana's going to free fall. Free fall all the way down to like $100 per SOL. If we close below this trend line, if Bitcoin does what we just talked it would do, and Ethereum does what we just talked it would do, SOL is going to crash, and it's going to crash hard. We're about to, in 6 hours, close below the 200 EMA on the daily time frame. What else? Is there really anything specifically? QVWAP levels, we're still above that lower band. But besides that, we go on the daily or the weekly. We're about to again close below the 20 weekly time or the weekly EMA. We are rejecting off the 50 weekly EMA, but again, if we close below this 50 weekly EMA, I see potential for us to go all the way down to $100 per SOL, personally. All right, so that is just my thoughts. I'm a little tired today, so I don't know. Maybe it was harder for me to, or harder to understand where I was going with this video, but it was simply meant to be just an update video. Tomorrow, it most likely will be the same thing, unless I come up with something. Maybe it's like how I plan to, make thousands of dollars in the bear market, whatever the case is. We'll go over that. I'll share with you guys literally my entire plan, how we're going to capitalize off the bear market completely for free for you guys. Also, I'll share with you all the resources that I have planned for that, and what the resources that you guys can access to, of course. And that's going to be it for me today, guys. So I appreciate all of you who stuck through to the end. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.